The Parker County teenager who murdered his mother and sister pleaded guilty to the crimes and will be sent to prison. Jacob Evans called 911 after the murders and described himself as evil.
I just thought it'd be quick, you know. I didn't want them to feel any pain. That's why I used the
Okay.
But it was like everything went wrong.
It's all right. Keep breathing for me. Okay, just in through your nose, real slow out through your mouth. Couple more deep breaths for me. There you go. Real deep in, real slow and real deep.
What causes a seemingly normal and well-loved teenager from a good background to snap and do the unthinkable? We see it happen all the time, seemingly now more than ever before. There are teenagers open firing in schools, movie theaters, and grocery stores, and many people have asked the question, why? Could it be a mental health issue, or could it stem from exposure to violent video games or movies? Everyone from licensed professionals to social media commentators give their opinions about why this happens. But without being in the minds of these teenage killers, we can never truly know for sure. We can only guess what things may have played a role in turning a child into a cold-blooded murderer. This is the story of a 17-year-old kid who changed the trajectory of his life when he decided to kill his family for no reason.
Parker County 911, where's your emergency?
My house,
What's the address?
152 River Creek Lane.
Okay, what's the emergency?
I just killed my mom and my sister.
What?
I just killed my mom and my sister.
What you just heard was the voice of Jake Evans, a teenager who on October 4th of 2012 called 911 to confess to killing his mother, Jamie Evans, and his 15-year-old sister, Mallory Evans. He did this without exhibiting any warning signs and no red flags, at least none that anyone had noticed at the time. Check out this picture of Jake posing with his mom and Mallory. Here's another picture of the whole family taken from when Jake was younger. He was one of 4 children and was the only boy. Then there's this haunting image of Mallory posing with her arm around him, a smile on her face. It looks like your typical sibling relationship, and from the outside looking in, that's what it was. What Mallory didn't know while she posed for that picture was that Jake was planning on taking her life. In fact, it was something that he thought about for a long time before he ended up going through with it.
You just killed your mother and your sister? How did you do that?
I shot them with a 22 revolver.
And what is your name?
Jake Evans.
Jay Evans?
Jake Evans.
Are you sure they're dead?
Yes.
That October day in 2012 had started out just like any other. The Evans family was relaxing at their home in their large, comfortable Fort Worth, Texas home. They lived in a well-to-do area. It was a safe area where crime rarely happened. Nobody could have ever imagined that it would be inside this home that an unthinkable tragedy would soon take place. Jake was not a violent or aggressive kid. As you will be able to tell when you hear more of this 911 call from that dark day, he was timid, quiet, and even a little shy. He attended public school for most of his life, and then in 2010 it was decided that he would be homeschooled by his mother, who had worked in the public system for years. She was even an assistant principal for a while. It's not clear why Jake suddenly started being homeschooled, or if there was anything going on at school that made him decide that he no longer wanted to attend in person. But considering his mom was already an experienced educator, maybe it wasn't that strange of a decision at the time. Jake came from a religious family who went to church regularly. His family was stable and supportive, but like any siblings do, his family did get on Jake's nerves from time to time. His little sister Mallory in particular would irritate him because of her attitude and the way that she would sometimes treat other people. Now you're probably thinking, what 17-year-old boy doesn't get annoyed by his little sister some of the time, especially when they are only 2 years apart? The fact that Jake got annoyed by Mallory was not unusual at all. What was bizarre and absolutely tragic would be what he would ultimately decide to do to to her as a result of that annoyance. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. First, it's important to take a closer look at Jake's interest. He was really, really into horror movies, the Halloween series in particular. In fact, in the days leading up to the murders, he watched the movies over and over, again and again and again. Again, you might be thinking that this isn't all that strange. A lot of people have favorite movies that they like to rewatch. At the time, Halloween was just a few weeks away, which made it a perfect time of year to get into a scary movie marathon. But for Jake, this was something much more different than that. This was an obsession. When most people watch scary movies, they root for the good guys. With the Halloween movies, that would be the teenagers, trying desperately to escape a violent death at the hands of Michael Myers. But when Jake watched these popular horror films, he would root for Michael Myers. He didn't just like the notorious movie villain, he wanted to be like him. He imagined what it would be like to be in Michael's shoes as he violently slayed another victim. As time went on, Jake didn't just want to imagine what it would be like to kill someone. He wanted to truly experience it, and not just in a movie, but in real life. Jake didn't tell anybody about these dark fantasies that he was having. He didn't do anything to try to stop them, or to try to get some help. Maybe he was afraid to tell anyone because he thought he would be judged, or maybe he thought that they would just go away on his own. But they didn't. If anything, these thoughts about killing people got stronger and stronger over time. Eventually, they led to the events that took place on the night of October 4th of 2012. On that particular day, Jake had gone to a doctor's appointment where he spoke to an allergist. It was a simple, quick appointment, and after that, he went out for lunch with his mom and sister. While they enjoyed their day together, they had no idea that Jake was already planning how he was going to kill them. Jake knew it would be the perfect opportunity, one that might not come again anytime soon. His two older sisters were gone, one at college and the other one was at his grandparents' house across the street. Jake's dad was out of town on a business trip and wouldn't be back until the next day. There would be nobody at home to stop him, nobody to try to defend Mallory or his mom when he ultimately ambushed and attacked them. So when Jake got home after their errands that day, he headed straight to his room. When he was finally alone, he began to mentally prepare himself for the horrible acts that he would soon commit. He did this by once again picking up his Halloween movie, slipping the film into the DVD player, and watching it for a final time. When he was done with this, he did something that may seem strange when you consider the evil he was about to be committing hours later. He went out to his backyard and hit some golf balls by himself. Maybe this was his way of calming his nerves, or even distracting him from the dark, murderous thoughts that he would later say he was having all the time. After hitting golf balls for about an hour, Jake headed inside to the living room and sat down on the couch to watch a show. After a little while, Mallory sat down alongside him and joined him. While they were watching Family Guy together, Mallory had no idea that Jake was quietly remembering and replaying something that she had said earlier in the day. It was a racist comment that she had supposedly made that really upset Jake, and he was still angry about it hours later when he was sitting next to her on the couch. That anger would ultimately be one of the many reasons that would play into his decision to take her life. But first, he decided to give his sister one last chance to redeem herself. Jake asked Mallory about that comment she had made earlier and tried to get her to clarify what she meant. Maybe it had just been some sort of bad joke that she hadn't actually meant. But when he asked her about it and told her why he found the comment so offensive, she made it clear that she wasn't sorry for what she said. No matter how hard he tried to help her to see things from his perspective, she supposedly wasn't going to change her perspective. So eventually Jake told Mallory that he didn't want to watch TV with her anymore. Irritated by their disagreement, she got up and went to her room. Meanwhile, the anger Jake was experiencing got stronger and stronger and would soon boil over. Jake went into his parents' room and retrieved a sharp blade that belonged to his father from where it was usually kept in the closet. He put it in his pocket and then went off to his room. Once again, he fantasized about what it would be like to kill his sister. With his fingers around the base of that weapon, he imagined what it would be like to thrust it into her chest. This was something he just kept replaying over and over in his head. Jake was super conflicted. On the one hand, he still had love for his sister despite their differences, and the thought of hurting her the way he was planning to was disturbing to him. But at the same time, his anger was so intense that there was nothing that he could do to get rid of it. Every rude thing she had ever said to him, every offensive joke she had ever made, he just kept remembering.
Are you okay, Jake?
I'm thinking about my sister.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 15.
15.
Yeah. she was, I don't know. She had a really sweet side, but she was kind of racist and I don't know, kind of rude to me sometimes. I guess.
Jake had already decided that he would kill his family. There was no turning back now. The only thing left to do was to actually pull it off. Even though Mallory was the one who he was the most angry with, Jake decided that he would stop with her, but kill everyone. He was going to start with her and his mom, and then go across the street to kill his other sister and his grandparents as well. When he was finished with that, he would wait for his oldest sister to arrive home from college for her planned visit, and then he would kill her too. At least that had been his plan. Jake now knew that he wanted to kill Mallory first. He went to go find her, and as soon as he saw her, he knew the plan of using his dad's blade to kill her basically went out the window. He knew that he wasn't strong enough to watch her suffer, and using that blade to kill her would take time. It would be horrific, and she would be in a lot of pain. So he decided to come up with a different idea. Instead of a blade, he was going to use his grandfather's firearm that he had stolen earlier instead. Finally committed to his new plan, he was ready to begin. After making sure that his mother was busy with something else downstairs, Jake grabbed his grandpa's weapon and knocked on Mallory's door. When she opened the door, he pointed the weapon at her. But Mallory's reaction was not what he expected. Instead of being scared, she laughed at him. She thought he was just messing with her and told him to stop. She never dreamed he would actually hurt her, but Jake wasn't just playing around. As soon as Mallory walked out of her room and turned to go down the stairs, he fired the weapon, hitting her in the back.
My sister, she came down the stairs and she was screaming, and I was telling her that I'm sorry, but to just hold still. That I was just gonna make it go away, but she just kept on freaking me out. But finally, she fell down and I shot her in the head about probably 3 times.
So they're both downstairs?
Yes.
Jake was horrified by the sight and sounds of his sister's gory death, but all he could think about was continuing his evil plan. So he went downstairs and fired the weapon at his mom 3 times, killing her too. After that, Jake sat down and processed what he had just done. Now he finally had his wish of being able to actually know what Michael Myers would have felt after taking 2 human lives. But none of it had been like what he had hoped for or pictured in his head. He could still hear his sister's screams and the sound that the weapon made when he fired it into the head of his sister and mom. Despite his best efforts to make it as painless as possible, he felt no sense of peace or exhilaration. He felt guilt and disgust. So instead of walking across the street to kill his grandparents and other sister as he had planned, he grabbed the phone, called 911, and confessed to everything.
Okay. I want you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Hold on just a minute. Where is the gun?
It's on the kitchen counter.
Okay. It's a 22?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on.
Throughout this now infamous 911 call, there are several things that you will probably notice. One thing is how calm and understanding the operator is. Despite the horrible, unspeakable things that Jake just told her that he did, she doesn't show any judgment toward him. She keeps a very even tone and lets him know that she is there for him. She does this for a couple of very important reasons. She wants to make sure to de-escalate the situation by keeping Jake calm and hopefully preventing him from becoming emotional and hurting someone else or himself. She also makes it very clear that she is listening to him. This will hopefully make him feel comfortable enough to tell her everything that's going on. Her strategy ends up working very well.
Jake,
Yes.
are you on any kind of medication?
No. Well, I've been going to the allergist a lot lately.
Yeah.
With my mom. But no, nothing other than that.
Okay. How old are you?
17.
You don't take any other kind of medication?
I mean, other than like Zyrtec and like Advil and like Sudafed and stuff like that, for the allergies and headaches. But
Yeah.
no.
The operator tries to gently ask Jake why he decided to make the decision he did and kill his family. He explains to her that he's been having these sort of thoughts for a while.
Okay. Do you, is there any reason that you were so angry at your mother and your sister?
I don't know. I wasn't. It's weird. I wasn't even really angry with them. It just kind of happened. I've been kind of planning on killing for a while now.
The two of them, or just anybody?
Pretty much anybody.
Why?
I don't know. I don't really like people's kind of attitude.
Jake talks about the annoyance he felt by the way that his mother and sister spoke to other people.
I think they're very, emotional, I don't know, verbally rude to each other and stuff like that.
Right.
And, I don't know.
It's okay.
It's just my family, I don't know, they're just kind of really, I guess this is really selfish to say, but to me, I felt like they were just suffocating me in a way. I don't know. I think obviously, I'm pretty, I guess, evil, but that's, whatever.
Everything is out in the open now. He's already confessed, but Jake seems almost hesitant to continue talking. It's like he's worried about the operator judging him for what he just did. He even apologizes to her.
No, don't be sorry. It's all right. I'm listening. Okay, you have my undivided attention. Were your mom and sister in their beds?
Only a little bit of time has passed, but Jake is already realizing that the memories of what he just did are going to haunt him for a long time. He tells the operator about his fear of never being able to forget what he saw.
No, this is really gonna mess me up for the, in the future. See, my sister, I told my sister that my mom needed her.
Mm-hmm.
She was in her room, and she came out of her room, and I her, and she rolled down the stairs, and I again, and then I went down and my mom about maybe 3 or 4 times, but I'll never forget this.
Okay, that's fine.
Law enforcement is already on their way, but in the meantime, the operator is still trying to gather as much information as she can about the situation, including figuring out where the murder weapon is.
Okay, where are you?
In the kitchen.
You're not sitting by the are you?
No, it's about like 10 or 15 feet away from me.
Where's your dad?
He's out of town.
Do you know where he is? Out of town?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Just like Jake was worried about how the memories of what he did are going to mess him up for years to come, he is once again thinking about the future. The thought seems to occur to him that he will eventually have to look in the eyes of his other family members after they find out what he's done, and he wants to avoid that uncomfortable situation for as long as possible.
And for, I guess, future reference, I don't really want to see any of my family members,
Mm-hmm.
like it and visiting or whatever. I don't know how it works or anything, but I just don't want any type of visitors. I don't want to see.
Okay.
At this point, you might be wondering, where are the cops? It seems like this 911 call is going on forever. But in reality, Jake seems to have become comfortable enough with this operator to open up to her, so it ends up continuing on with her questions and gathering as much info as she can.
Where do you go to school, Jake?
Well, I used to go to Leo High School,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm kind of being homeschooled.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just you and your sister and your mom and dad in the house live
Well,
there?
no, my dad's out of town.
Well, yeah, but normally it's just your mom and your sister and your dad and you.
Yeah, and my grandpa and grandma, they live across the street, and my oldest sister, she lives with my grandparents, and I have another sister, and she's out in college. She was going to come out to visit us tomorrow.
At one point, the operator asks Jake if he's thinking about taking his own life. This is something that is very important for law enforcement to figure out so that they can get a sense of what his current mental state is. After all, the weapon is still loaded and still in the house. At any point, Jake could decide to pick it back up again. But Jake makes it clear to the operator that after what just happened, he had no interest in even being near a firearm again.
I assure you, I definitely don't like myself, but I'm just so freaked out by guns now. And just to let you know, like, I hate the feeling of killing someone. I'm gonna be messed up.
There are people that will help you.
Oh, God.
Well, you just take a deep breath. We have deputies coming, and they're going to help you.
Jake seems to spiral and seems to be thinking mostly of himself as he starts to imagine the nightmares and mental turmoil he will face in the future as the images of what he did consume his thoughts. The operator assures him that there will be people who will help him when he goes through this.
You'll be all right, Jake. Okay? You'll be all right.
I'm like really worried about like nightmares and stuff like that. Are there any type of medication for that and stuff?
Well, I think there is. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but the justice system, and I'm sure your family will get you the support you need.
I don't mean to sound like a wimp or anything, but this is wow. I've never done anything violent in my whole life,
Jake explains to the operator how none of this went according to plan, including his efforts to make sure Mallory and his mom didn't feel any pain before they died. The reality of what he did seems to finally be setting in, and he is starting to sound more and more worried. The operator tries to keep him calm by encouraging him to take deep breaths.
I just thought it'd be quick, I didn't want them to feel any pain. That's why I used the gun.
Okay.
But it was like everything went wrong.
It's all right. Keep breathing for me. Okay, just in through your nose, real slow, out through your mouth. Couple more deep breaths for me. There you go. Real deep in, real slow and real deep.
What Jake doesn't yet realize is that the cops are already at his house and waiting outside for him. It's almost time for him to surrender himself over to them, but they want to make sure that this process goes as smoothly as possible, so the operator begins to walk him through what is about to happen.
Okay, Jake, what I want you to do is, after we get through talking, I want you to put the phone down and leave it in the kitchen. You don't have to hang it up, okay? But I want you to walk outside. But when you're walking through the house and outside, stay visible. Don't hide behind any furniture. Open the front door.
Jake is willing to cooperate and does exactly as the operator told him to do. It's hard to imagine what he could have been thinking or what he was expecting to happen next. Was he thinking about his family, or was he only worried about himself as his last moments of freedom came to an end and he prepared to be taken to custody?
All right.
Okay, go ahead and put the phone down and do it. And then just listen to what Sergeant Fletcher has to say. He's very appreciative that you're willing to come out on your own. He thinks that's great, all right?
All right.
And I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right, hon. You're welcome.
Yeah, bye.
After more than a 20-minute phone conversation with the 911 operator, Jake finally hung up on the phone. He was arrested and taken into custody without any issues. He did not resist or try to get away. He would soon be charged with 2 counts of murder, but it would take 2 more years after the murder for him to actually make a plea in this case. In the state of Texas, capital murder can be punished by death. Considering the fact that Jake took the lives of 2 people, not to mention members of his own family, death was a punishment that could have actually been on the table table for Jake. Luckily for him, he was offered a plea deal. If he decided to plead guilty for killing his mom and sister, he would receive a prison sentence instead of facing the possibility of death. He ultimately decided to take that deal. On the day that Jake was walked into the courtroom to enter his plea, he hardly looked like a cold-blooded killer. He looked weak, small, and frail.
Jacob Evans walked into the courtroom still looking much like the frail 17-year-old teenager of 2.5 years ago when he killed his mother and 15-year-old sister. He came to court to enter his plea.
When he said his plea aloud, his voice was quiet, and he seemed timid, just like he had 2 years earlier during that chilling 911 call.
Guilty. And you're telling me that voluntarily? Yes, sir.
It took a long time for all the court proceedings to play out and to get to the sentencing stage with Jake's case. This was because it was necessary to determine what his mental capacity was. He would have had to have been proven mentally competent before he could even go to trial. When he was first taken into custody, it was determined that Jake wasn't mentally competent and he would need to receive treatment. After that treatment, the discussion of what kind of prison sentence Jake would receive officially began.
Evans had been in a maximum security mental hospital after he was ruled incompetent to stand trial. A competency evaluation was filed this week. Before the plea agreement, the judge ruled Evans is now competent. Evans and the attorneys agreed he will serve 2 45-year prison sentences running concurrently.
That's a 45-year prison sentence for Mallory, and another one for his mom, Jamie Evans. Despite all the pain that Jake caused by taking both Jamie and Mallory away from them so tragically, Jake's family actually hoped for him to be given mercy. They wrote a letter to the court telling them that they would accept a prison sentence of less than 45 years.
We feel that this is a fair plea bargain under all circumstances, even though our family would support a lesser sentence than 45 years. If it was possible to do so in this case.
It's hard to imagine how Jake's father and other surviving sisters were able to get to a point where they forgave him for what he did.
I think what that really tells you is the absolute power of forgiveness of this family, given the circumstances of the father and the siblings of Jake Evans to have lost a sibling and their mother. They have forgiven him to depths that just should inspire everybody in this case.
So besides that anger is felt toward Mallory over those stupid racist comments and the curiosity about murder, was there anything else that made Jake decide to commit these murders and ruin his own life? We may never know for sure.
He wanted to see what it was like. I don't know that we'll ever get much further beyond that in terms of understanding what exactly happened that night.
As for whether or not Jake will ever get a chance to be a free man again, only time will tell.
Evans has to serve at least half his prison term before he's eligible for parole. He's been in jail for 2.5 years, which means he has to do a solid 20 years before he's eligible if he gets paroled then.
Do you think that Jake deserves to ever get out of prison? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.